shutdown outrage, military death benefits denied to families of fallen troops. You know, there have been at least 5 families of U.S. military members killed during in Afghanistan over the weekend were given a double whammy by federal officials. Not only have your loved ones died, but due to the government shutdown, you won't receive a death benefit. You know, the approval rating of Congress we joke about being 12% or 11%. I have a line I use all the time. We're down to blood relatives and paid staffers. But shouldn't we as a body, Republican, Democrat, no matter who we are, shouldn't we be embarrassed about this? Shouldn't we be ashamed? What do the American people think when they see that death benefit for those who served and sacrificed in the most honorable way are not even, their families are not even eligible for death benefits? I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed. All of us should be. And the list goes on of people, of innocent Americans who have fallen victim to the reality that we can't sit down and talk like grown-ups and address this issue. I'm not going to take the full 15 minutes here because I frankly get a little bit emotional, but we started out with a false premise here on this side of the aisle, and that was that somehow we were going to repeal Obamacare. That's after 25 days of debate, including up till Christmas Eve morning, fighting against Obamacare. That's after a 2012 election where I've traveled this country with passion, the first thing we're going to do when Mitt Romney is President of the United States is repeal and replace Obamacare, and the American people spoke. So somehow to think that we were going to repeal Obamacare, which would have required 67 Republican votes, of course, was a false premise, and I think did the American people a grave disservice by convincing them that somehow we could. And now 70% of the American people, according to a Washington Post poll this morning, disapprove of Republicans. But they disapprove of Democrats as well. And they disapprove of the President of the United States as well. And meanwhile, the Chinese, great role models of democracy, are now criticizing us because of a looming failure for the American government to pay its debts, both domestic and abroad. I say to my friend, the Majority Leader, and he is my friend, we use that word with great abandon around here, but he and I have known each other now for 30 years. Let's find a way to allow the adversary. I asked my good friend from Utah, who's a history major, the words of Abraham Lincoln, charity toward all, malice toward none. Let's find a way out of this. Let's find a way that we can sit down. I don't care if it's appointing people. I don't care if it's the informal conversations that we've been having back and forth. But there should be a way out of both of these dead ends that we are in. How is this going to end? We know how it's going to end. We know how it's going to end. Sooner or later, the government will resume its functions. Sooner or later, we will raise the debt limit. The question is how do we get there? If there's anybody who disagrees that we're not going to reach that point, I'd like to hear from them. So why don't we do this sooner rather than later? And why doesn't the Senate lead? I have great respect for the other side of the Capitol, but I understand the contradictions that are there and the difficulties that the Speaker has, and I am in great sympathy there. So why don't we get together? Why don't we sit down and come? Look, this body voted 70 to 29, I think it was, to repeal the medical device tax. My colleagues want to renounce that vote that they took on the budget. Why don't we use that as one of the areas where we could reach agreement? What about this issue out there? The American people believe that we are under a different health care system than they are, and ours is a better deal than theirs. There's a number of issues that we could sit down and negotiate within an hour if we will stop attacking each other and impugning people's integrity and honor. So all I can say is that let's start this afternoon. And I don't care who it is or how it's shaped, but let's sit down and get out of this so that these families whose loved ones just died, will receive the benefits, at least that would give them some comfort and solace in this terrible hour of tragedy.